Hello everybody and welcome back to another CB Show Tunes tutorial. Now today what we're going to be getting into is we're going to be learning how to set up waypoints for your NPC character. Now this tutorial is mainly just for the waypoint aspect. We're not actually going to be getting into attacking or defending, stuff like that. But we will be working on just the ideal of moving a character from one point to the other, having them pause at that point, and of course making sure that we have certain animations running whenever that is actually working. Now, as you could see right here, we just have a simple capsule just walking around the scene, and I didn't add any animations inside this actual scene, but I did actually apply inside the script where to put the animations. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Now the first thing that you're going to need to do, of course, is you're going to need to create a navigation mesh. Now if you don't know what a navigation mesh is, all you need to do is find the navigation panel. If it's not inside your scene already, you can simply go over to Windows and then find navigation, and it will pop this window up. Normally it's going to come over here. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to select what you want to be navigable or navigatable. I don't know how to say that. So I basically selected my ground. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to press bake. Now, if you ever worked with navigation meshes before, anything that's set as a static will also be referenced inside the navigation. So say for instance we have this cube or this wall. We don't want the character to be able to walk through these items, so what we're going to do is head over into the inspector and make sure that you change these to static. And then once you have that done, you can go and reselect your plane and then go over to bake, and it will rebake and fix any issues. Okay, so once you have your navigation mesh set up, what you're going to do is you're going to create a character. Now, as you can see, this is just a simple character. It's a capsule and all. And all that I did with it was add a rigid body, which this was mainly for my own personal preference. It's not absolutely necessary, but I went ahead and added the rigid body just so I can interact with my character better. And of course the environment. And of course, I made sure that my capsule collider, actually no, that I left the same. I also added a Nav Mesh Agent. Now, if you don't know what a Nav Mesh Agent is, it's pretty much, if you come over here to add component and type in Nav Mesh, this Nav Mesh Agent will allow us to be able to walk or have our character walk on the navigation mesh without us controlling it at least. So agent type, we're going to be using humanoid. Base offset, you could do whatever you want. If you notice it was sticking a little bit off the ground, you could adjust the base height a little bit, so 1.25, or you could put it like a 0.9, or whatever you want it to be, but yeah. And of course, we're not going to work with the speed right here because this will be taken care of in the script. And angular speed, this is the rotation speed that you're going to be working with. So if you want your character to make some sharp turns, then you'll need to raise that up. If you want it to make just slow turns and all, then you can lower that down. Acceleration, that just means how fast it picks up speed to get up to its max speed. And of course the stopping distance, that will be covered inside the script as well. Go and have auto braking. It's really useful. And everything else you can leave pretty much the same. It's already pretty much set up. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to be having on this character is our script. Now, if you notice this is AI enemy, don't worry about that. There was a script that I was using to create an enemy and all, and then I just modified it to actually make it for an NPC. Now keep in mind that this script will be inside the comment section down below, so if you guys want to just copy that, then go ahead. Just make sure that you have these top components set up. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what this does. So at the top you can see using UnityEngine.ai. This allows us to access the navigation mesh system inside Unity. And of course you have require component. Now this right here automatically puts the Nav Mesh Agent and the rigid body onto your um, character, so you don't have to worry about adding that to your character. And of course, we have our Nav Mesh Agent inside of our public class. You know, we call this function. I mean, if you have ever watched any of my other tutorials and all, you've seen me do this hundreds of times before. So you see the Nav Mesh Agent, NM, rigid body, RB. And if you're going to be using an animator, make sure that you type in animator, and you could type in anim. And of course, if you want to require that animator as well, you could just simply put in require component type of, and then you could just put animator, just like that. But for now, I'm not going to worry about that. But this will be required when adding in that animation area. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating two different transforms. Now, one transform is going to be set up as an array, and the other one's going to be set up as individual. So we have this public transform target. Now, the reason why we came up with this target is because we want to be able to give us the option of, say for instance, if we did switch this over to an enemy, we want them to be able to follow waypoints, but we also want them to be able to follow the player. So we're going to assign what target they're following based on that. Now keep in mind, like I said, this is just a waypoint tutorial, so we won't be adding in the other script just yet. Okay, so as you can see, we have the array, waypoints. We have an int called cur waypoints. This just tells us where or which waypoint we're at. We also have a public float called speed and stop distance. So speed tells us how fast our character's moving. Stop distance tells us when our character needs to stop. So if your speed is super high, then your stop distance probably needs to be greater. Otherwise, it will not stop in time. And of course, we have a public float called pause time. And I serialized this next variable and all because it's a private float. And this, of course, is called cur timer. And that basically is going to be setting up our pause for whenever we reach our destination. Okay, so underneath the void start function, we have us getting our component for, or getting our reference for our Nav Mesh Agent and our rigid body. And as I said before, this is where you would put like your anim dot is equal to get component, animator, you know, stuff like that. And of course, on a rigid body, and if you notice I'm using this RB function, we're going to be saying RB, which is rigid body, dot freeze rotation is equal to true. So what we're doing here is we're heading over to our rigid body on our game object, and we're going to be setting all these values to freeze it so it won't just fall over. That's basically just something that I started doing recently, so then people don't have to worry about modifying the values inside the inspector as much. Okay, and then we have target is equal to waypoints, cur waypoint. That way we have a set target automatically, so we're not just being like, which target are we going for? I don't know which target we're going for, right? So basically, we're just giving it a value starting off. And of course, we have cur timer is equal to pause timer. So we're setting our pause to its max value. All right, underneath the void update function, we're going to grab our Nav Mesh Agent, and we're going to set its acceleration is equal to speed. We're also going to be setting its stopping distance is equal to stop distance. That way, when we adjust it inside the script, it adjusts it inside the Nav Mesh Agent, so we're not doing two different variables at the same time. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a float called distance, and this distance is going to be equal to a vector3 dot distance, and we're going to be judging the value or distance between our current game object and then our target game object. So consider it like a line between two different objects. So you have your computer and then you have yourself. So the distance between the computer and yourself, that's exactly what value we're looking for if you want to use that example. And of course, right here, you're going to notice we have this moved waypoint reference. And all this is really doing is just saying, if our current distance is greater than our stop distance. So if our stop distance is 1 and it's basically farther along uh, than that distance, then it will have this happen. Now, I'm going to explain this a little bit better actually. So if you notice these squares inside of Unity, right? Each one of these squares is a unit. Now, per unit, that is exactly the distance that it's going to be measuring. So 1 distance on the stop distance is going to be equal to 1 square. 2 distance is equal to 2 squares. 3 distance is equal to 3 squares, and so on. So always consider that whenever setting this up. Now, I would advise doing more than 1 on the stop distance because I realized that it actually does not adjust very well to moving to different waypoints and all. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that it's at least set to 1. Okay, and inside this function, though, you're going to notice we have set bool for moving is equal to true. And this is for your animator. So I'm going to go and write that. Animator. That should work. Okay, so basically, we're going to be setting our bool for moving is equal to true. So if you're walking or running, you're going to set that equal to true. And then, of course, you're going to be setting the bool for idle is equal to false. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course, you're going to be finding your target. So target is equal to waypoints, current waypoint. All right, so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to put an else if. Now, this is going to be like the complete opposite of the first one. So it's going to be if distance, or else if distance, is going to be less than or equal to stop distance. So we're going to be saying if we're really close up to the object. And of course, our waypoint.length is going to be greater than 0. Then what we're going to do here is we're going to set this value. So we're going to say if our current timer is greater than 0. So if we're not going to be equal to 0, then current timer minus equals 0.01f. And that way it continually subtracts a number over and over again without having to reset. And it only happens if it's greater than 0. And the next thing we're going to say is if cur timer is less than or equal to 0, so it's the opposite value of this, we're going to say cur waypoint plus plus. So we're going to add one number to our waypoint integer. Then we're going to say if our current waypoint is greater than or equal to waypoint.length, so the max value of our waypoint. So say for instance there's 3 different waypoints we have in our scene. And if we hit number 3, what is going to happen is instead of it just stopping at number 3 and being like, well, what do I do? Or it basically sending the integer to 4 or 5 or 6, it's going to send us back down to 0. And keep in mind, if you take a look at this element 0, element 1, element 2, on arrays and all, the value starts at 0 and then goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So make sure that you do keep that in mind whenever setting this up, that 0 is the starting value. And of course, you're going to set current waypoint is equal to 0. And outside of that, you're going to simply put target is equal to waypoints, current waypoint. That way, we're setting up the next value. So our current waypoint that we were going to is no longer what target now is because our waypoint has increased by 1 number. So now waypoint is equal to 1, or is equal to 2, or is equal to 0 again. And of course, we're going to be setting our cur timer is equal to pause timer. And the very, very last and most simplest thing inside this entire script. Outside of all the other functions, we're going to be having this inside the void update function. And we're going to say nm, or Nav Mesh Agent, .set destination, target.position. Now I know that seems like a lot. Well, it is quite a lot. But the results are very satisfying. And as you can see, he stops inside the point. And if you notice, he did go through this object right here, and that is because I did set this object as a, I guess you could say I set this object as, One second, let me do this. Yeah, I set these waypoint objects with an is trigger on their box collider. So make sure that you do something similar to that. Otherwise, it may have some issues. Unless, of course, you raise the stop distance to something a little bit different. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, check out some other videos. If you have any questions regarding this video or any other videos, or if you have a suggestion on a tutorial that you want put out, make sure that you leave a comment inside the comment section below. I'll be happy to get to it as fast as I can. And I'll see you guys next time.